Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad. We wish we would have known about these things.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Today is your opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. You've got an 87% chance of success. Well, son, that's a 13% chance of failure.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
And we welcome you into this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. As always, we're here with Tim Wood. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Hope you are having a wonderful day, and more importantly, I hope you're staying warm. Boy, Mother Nature not been kind to us here over the last week or so, but hopefully wherever you are, you're nice and warm, you're toasty, and boy, we got a lot to get to on the show here today. But first things first, we say hello to the man of the hour, the star of the show, and my good buddy, Mr. Tim Wood. And Tim, I hope you're staying warm, sir. I guess it's easier said than done these days, right?
It's much easier said than done. Yes, sir. In the mountains up here in Johnson City, Tennessee, where my home office is, it's been bitter cold. Yeah. And, we've seen some snow and some ice and all that good stuff. So it's the, joys of winter. Yeah. That's where we are. I'm one of those really weird people, Kevin, and people that have met me know this, that I'm actually one of those weird people. I like the cold.
Do you?
Because I grew up in Florida, man, and working an audio console at the Magic Kingdom in the middle of summer with sweat, we literally had to have a towel there to wipe the sweat off the audio consoles because it would just drip off of you nonstop.
Yeah.
I've been hot. I've been as hot as a human can be. I would rather be cold because I can put on a coat and a hat and gloves and it's still chilly, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
But when it's hot, I don't care if you don't have a stitch of clothing on. It's still hot.
Yeah.
So I'm that weird guy. I like the cold.
No doubt. Well, we hope wherever you are listening to the show today, you're staying warm. Hopefully the power is staying on for you, and keeps tuned in. We got a lot of great stuff to get to on the show here today. So, Tim, let's dive right into it, man, because I know one thing you and I have spent a lot of time talking about over the last 5, 6, 7 months is certainly the stock market. And whenever the market is going well, it seems like we see this headline pop up that the number of 401k millionaires is at an all-time high. Now, on the surface, that appears to be a great headline, but we all have to remember that number in your 401k isn't all yours. You get that real number after taxes, and Tim, we could see 30% right off the top go back to Uncle Sam. So when it comes to taxes, when it comes to folks listening here today, how can you help them plan now to avoid getting that maybe unexpected tax bill later on in life?
This is one of the biggest things that I talk to every single client about when we are having that fact finder appointment, that first appointment, because you're right. Now, most people think, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to pay taxes when I, get this money out. But they don't think on $1 million at 30%, son, that's $300,000. Mm-hmm. And when we sit down and really look at the numbers and based on where you are, if you're only in the 12 or, 22% tax bracket, it's not so bad. But you start bumping up to the 32, 34, boy, it can start hurting. That is the number one thing. Right off the bat is that your balance isn't all yours. And it's not just 401ks, man. It's any of these pre-tax plans, TSPs, 403Bs, 457s. Any of them, they're all kind of the same. IRAs, they're all kind of the same. If it's a pre-tax plan, you need to understand that balance isn't all yours if it's all still in that qualified pre-tax plan. Now, what can we do? What can we do to try to alleviate that? Well, what we need to do is we need to sit down and we need to do a thorough plan and determine in some cases it makes sense to leave the money there and we'll just pay taxes as you take the money out. Mm-hmm. Great. But we plan for that.
Right.
We know if you need $1,500 in your pocket and you're at the 22% tax rate, well, let's do the math and see what does your payment actually need to be, because they're going to withhold 22%, right? Mm-hmm. So knowing that and having a plan for that. So that happens a lot. But then also a lot, there are these things called Roth conversions. People, this is a big deal. People all the time say, well, I can't do a Roth. I make too much money. Or, well, you can only put a tiny little bit in a Roth every single year. That's not going to work for me. You're not hearing what I'm saying. What you're talking about in both of those situations is contributions. So yes, Roth contributions have all kinds of limits, but Roth conversions don't have any. So you could have, just to use easy numbers, $100,000 in an IRA. We could put you into a plan that allows you every year to convert between 0 and 100% of that to Roth. Now, are you going to have to pay all the taxes on whatever you convert at today's tax rate? Yes. But everybody and their brother believes that sooner or later tax rates are going to have to go up. I don't care who's in the White House, they're going to have to go up. Or more services are going to have to get shut down. I mean, something's got to happen, right? Something's got to give. Knowing that you can pay taxes now, and the great thing about Roths are, if anyone's listening and doesn't know the deal, once you pay the taxes on a Roth, you don't pay for any of the gains ever. As long as that account's 5 years old, or you've had a Roth for 5 years, actually is the technical thing, even if it's another Roth, it doesn't matter. You've got to have had a Roth for 5 years. And then all of the gains in that plan are tax deductible. So one of the, actually, when I do seminars, one of the pictures that I put up on the big board is the picture of a seed and then a picture of a full-grown tree. And I said, okay, if you were going to have to pay taxes on one of these two things, would you rather pay tax on the tiny little seed, or would you rather pay tax on this picture of this full, huge oak tree? Well, of course, everyone says, I'm going to pay on the seed. That's what we're talking about right now, because you're able to pay the taxes right now at today's lower tax rates and at what your account is valued at now. So it allows us to be able to, and like I said, convert between 0 and 100%. Now, the last part of that is, okay, Tim, well, how do I know how much to convert? What I tell clients is somewhere around Thanksgiving every single year, figure out how much total income you are going to have, and then pull up the tax rates for that year, the tax tables, you know what I'm saying, the tables.
Sure.
And if you're going to fall, in the 22% and you see where your number is and you see, well, I've got $40,000 more in income that I could take before I would go up to 24%. I might not use all 40, but that might give us $30,000 that you could convert this year, as long as you're going to have the money to pay the 22% on that 30,000. But now that's done, and you never have to pay taxes on that 30,000 again the rest of your life. It's done. And then the next year we do the same thing until that's paid off, and then we do it again, and we do it again, and we keep converting. So sometimes that does make complete sense. And the other thing the two other things kind of that we want to think about when we're talking about this before we move on is we also want to make sure that however we are withdrawing the money, because when you withdraw, it's when you're going to pay taxes on it, right? Everyone knows that. That's when you pay the taxes.
Right.
We need to coordinate that with whatever you're going to be getting for Social Security. So those two things need to be married up, because we need to make sure what is your income going to be total. And that's going to be Social Security plus however we're taking this. And then is this going to be taxed or not? I mean, it's kind of a whole, big picture thing that we have to look at. But that's one of the things. And then just the other thing is, how are we going to withdraw this? Because that's going to determine how we deal with it. Are we going to put it into a guaranteed lifetime income plan? That's what I do for most people, because in 80-90% of the cases, that's what people need. They need guaranteed income. Y'all have heard me say, well, I just went to my guy and he said, I've got a 92% chance of success. Okay, well, what does that mean conversely? That's not good enough for me. If you were playing Russian roulette and they said, oh, you got a 92% chance of, a bullet not shooting you, would you take those odds?
That's way too high for my liking.
That's way too high. And we're talking about now you're making this plan in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and now here you are in your 80s, 90s, and you need it to pay off. Well, what happens if you fall into that 8% and you're 92? Now what are you going to do?
Right.
You better hope you got family, because if not, you're going to be a ward of the state and you're going to be living off the state. And that's not good. I've been in those facilities. They're not good. They're not where you want to be. So it's kind of a big picture. There are definitely things that we can do, but people do need to realize that, there's a significant amount of your pre-tax retirement plans are the government's. They are your financial partner. Now, what we want to do, and our goal is to minimize how much of a partner they are And again, that's why we need to sit down with each person individually and come up with a specific plan for them that makes sense.
Obviously, we know that the crystal ball, I know mine's still in the shop. I know yours is still out of commission as well. We don't know what's going to happen to taxes down the road. We do know what they look like now. And if you are getting close to retirement, you want to start putting a plan in place that can limit the taxes you could give back to Uncle Sam. Remember, folks, you're tuned in. You've been saving for 20, 30, 40 years. Last thing you want to do is, like Tim said, take $1 million and chop 300 grand right off the top once you get to retirement. If you'd like to start putting that plan in place now, look no further than Tim Wood and his team with Safe Money Retirement. 800-913-SAFE. Again, that number is 800-913-7233. Or you can always visit Tim online. The website is safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com.
It's now time for our Safe Money Story of the Week. Visit safemoneystories.com to view more.
For this week's Safe Money Story, I actually want to go back to what Kevin and I were just talking about for just a minute, and that is, what can you do as far as tax planning? And I had a client come in recently. We will just call them Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They were an older couple. They had significant assets in the 7 figures, but it was all in pre-tax. Everything they had was in pre-tax. These are actually 403B plans. They each had them because of their, jobs, what they have done. So they had 403B plans, but all of it was still pre-tax, and they were very concerned about that, rightly. So what we did was they wanted to make sure that they were in plans where they could start paying those taxes as often as they could and as much as they could. So literally what Kevin and I were just talking about is exactly what we did for them. We sat them down. They each had their own 403B plans. We converted them into growth plans that have, good growth, no chance of losses, but that really wasn't the point. The point was, that's always good, obviously. No fees, no chance of losses, good growth, blah, blah, blah. That's great. But what the plan really was it was one of those plans that allows what's called partial Roth conversions. So there are a lot of plans out there that will allow you to convert the full plan at any time to a Roth, but now you're having to convert the full plan. We wanted to get them into a plan that allows literally between 0 and 100% every year. So exactly what you heard me tell Kevin a few minutes ago is what they are doing. So every single year we are sitting down and we are discussing somewhere around Thanksgiving, we are discussing what kind of income does it look like you're going to have, and look at the tax tables and then figure out how much do you want to convert. And that's how much you convert every year. First year, you might need a little hand holding. After that, it's very simple. There's really nothing to it. But they left knowing that the ball was in their court. They had control. That's a big thing with the clients that I deal with. I like to keep my clients in control as much as possible. I like them to be able to reallocate their funds every single year so they can choose how your money's growing. I like them to have all these benefits, and I want them to be able to choose, because there may be a year where they can't convert any. That's fine. You don't have to convert any. You don't have to convert any the whole time you have the thing. But it gives you the ability every single year up to 100%. So we got them each in a nice big plan. They walked out super happy knowing that, first of all, they were losing the fees from their 403B plans that they had. There's no fees. There's no chance of losses. So if the market, when it does go off that cliff, they don't have to worry about that. But more importantly now, every year they could determine how much they wanted to convert, and literally between 0 and 100% was open to them. So they're going to look at where they are every single year about Thanksgiving, determine how much they can convert, call the companies, do the conversion, boom, and it'll be done. And before long, we'll get to the point where they've got it all converted, and then, now we're really looking good. They both left super happy, super confident in their future, knowing that they were in control of their own tax future.
All starts with knowing your numbers. And if you'd like to have that conversation about what your taxes could look like when you get to retirement, maybe you're in a similar situation to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, as Tim Wood just referred to moments ago, pick up the phone. Give Tim Wood and his team at Safe Money Retirement a call right now. There's no cost. There's no obligation. 800-913-SAFE. SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233. The website, again, is safemoneyretirement.com. And folks, don't forget, if you've missed any of our recent shows, you can always catch up online on demand. You can also find more of those Safe Money stories by visiting safemoneystories.com. Again, it's safemoneystories.com. All right, we'll squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We got a whole lot more of this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood coming up right after this.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck. You've heard me talk about Tim Wood, certified financial fiduciary and owner of Safe Money Retirement for a while now. But what I haven't told you is that he's also a retirement income certified professional. Now, why should you care? Well, maybe you have pre-tax and after-tax retirement accounts, and you need to know how that's going to work. Or maybe you still don't have enough guaranteed lifetime income to cover your monthly bills. Or maybe your entire savings is still exposed to risk. Listen, I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that his team can help you. I want you to write this down, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation, free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I don't trust just anyone. So do your own homework on Tim Wood at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and request a copy of his best-selling book. 800-913-SAFE. safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Get started today.
Well, thanks as always for joining us on another edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. He's Tim Wood. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name is Kevin McAlpin. We hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, we thank you as always for joining us here on the show. So for folks listening today, they're getting closer to retirement. They might look at that 401k and say, okay, now what do I do? Well, that next step, that next piece is certainly critical. And I want to play this for you. This is financial author Jean Chatzky recently talking about it on Morningstar.
We did a great job at just banging the drum about the fact that people needed to max out, to pay themselves first, to contribute to their retirement account. What we did not do, what we're just starting to do, is to help people understand that they now have to reverse engineer the entire thing. They've got to take the money that they've accumulated and they've got to figure out how to turn it into a stream of income that's going to last as long as they do.
And I think that's a big part of it, Tim. It's going to last as long as they do. I know the number one fear of a lot of folks listening, it's not dying, it's outliving your paychecks in retirement. So let's talk about that next step and how you can help folks turn what they've saved for all these years into those reliable monthly paychecks.
Absolutely. And this is, again, I hate to keep saying this, but this is the biggest thing that I work with people on, is making that switch from accumulation to distribution. It's a totally different mindset, and you need totally different plans in order to accomplish it. And in most cases, you need a different advisor that is specializing in retirement and is specializing in how should I distribute this money now that I've got it saved. Whether it's $28,000 or $2.8 million, it doesn't matter, yes, but it doesn't matter because we've got to figure out what's our plan going to be. Mm-hmm. So what you can do is, again, we sit down, we see where you're at. Yes, we look at the taxes for sure. Just like we were talking before, we absolutely are going to discuss that. We're going to discuss Roth conversions. We're going to figure out how much do you really have and how much does the government really have. As of today, as of the tax rates today, that's probably not going to be how much you have in a decade.
Right.
So anyway, but then making the conversion from that to, we need to get you income. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure you are going to have enough income to cover how much you need. It's what I call a base level. It's the minimum that you need in order to survive in retirement. And that is basically your expenses, your baseline expenses of, your food, your housing, your car, what you give to charity, all that stuff, what you spend in a whole year. That's the minimum. We have got to come up with income for that minimum, and it needs to be guaranteed income, not, boy, I sure hope this works, 92% it will, if come. People come to me and they're at the end of that and they're like, well, I'm running out of money. Well, yes, sir, you are.
Right.
Why have you just been pulling money out all this time? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what happens. So making that transition. So the very first thing that we've got to do is we've got to sit down and figure out, do you have a gap in your income between what you're going to get from Social Security or pensions or rental properties or spousal maintenance or anything else that's paying you a guaranteed income? We add all of that up and we compare that to your expenses. Well, if that's less than your expenses, then you have got an income gap. That's step one with every single client. Now, every single client doesn't have that. I have clients all the time that have more income than their expenses, even in retirement. Hallelujah. Then we can move to step two. So step one is covering that income gap, whatever that is. And sometimes it's big. So that's the first step. Sometimes we don't need to do it. We go to step two. Step two then is, what are we going to do for inflation? I call them inflation buster plans, and they're plans that just will continue to roll up year after year as you defer this money. And at some point in the future, you can turn on income, so it'll give you a little bit more income. And if you don't ever turn it on, then every single one of those goes as a death benefit to whoever you've named as your beneficiary. So it's a win-win. Once we've got both of those things put to bed, and we know your income now is good, we know your income in the future is going to be good, anything on top of that, now we're talking about different growth plans. Now we're deciding, do we want your money to grow on a fixed rate, or do we want it to grow based on what, a certain market index? And do you want this benefit and that benefit? That's a whole other discussion about growth plans. But we make sure we get the income taken care of first, because people, y'all have heard me say this now for 5 years. Income is what brings happiness in retirement. Assets bring more stress. So we need to make sure that's step one. Do you have enough income? Do you need a gap plan to cover that? Boom, let's get that in place today. That's immediate. We got to get that done. Now we need to talk about these ladder plans to make sure you've got more money you can turn on in the future for inflation. And then after that, then we talk about, okay, how do you want your money to grow with no fees, no chance of losses, and you can still get to it, and what benefits do we need there? But yeah, it's sitting down and making that plan. And brother, let me tell you, Kevin, it is hard for some people to make that transition from accumulation to distribution. They still just want to grow as much. And it's a different mindset. You can't just be grow when you're in retirement, because sooner or later it's going to crash like it did in 08 and 09. Well, what you going to do then? If you're 75, your time horizon doesn't give you the time to recoup and get back. That's where this changes, is once you get into retirement, you can't afford to lose 30% in a month again. Mm-hmm. So
Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement, they're here to help. And folks, they are just a phone call away. You can get on his calendar now. We do have teammates standing by. 800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233. The website, of course, is safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com. And Tim, for those who call today, they get on your calendar. Let's throw in a copy of your book as well, complimentary with no obligation. It's also called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. Tim, I think you've got a couple of copies we can provide some listeners today, right?
100%. Well, I actually just got 200 more shipped in last week. So we've got plenty. Y'all just give us a call. We'll be happy to send you out a copy. No charge, no obligation.
There you go. The first 200 callers are getting a copy of the book today. How's that sound?
That sounds good. That sounds good. That 201st, you'll have to wait till I get more in, but that's fine. That's not a problem.
We'll make sure we get it out to you. Again, if you'd like to learn more, folks, the website is very simple. It's safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, I know one of the big questions you get in the office there is surrounding Social Security, especially for folks who are newly retired. The question is, when should I turn on those benefits? But that also, in my opinion, leads to even more questions, like, should you claim it at 62? Should you wait till 65 or later? How long will you live? Longevity is also a big part of this as well. According to the CDC, though, I thought this is interesting. The average life expectancy is almost 75 years for a man and 80 for a woman. So how does that math really work out? More importantly, so our listeners don't end up leaving money on the table when all's said and done.
This is something that I work with clients with a lot. I had a meeting this morning with a client, and this was one of our main discussions in the meeting. And certainly waiting to turn on your benefit makes your benefit higher. I think everybody knows that. That's not a secret. Everybody knows if you turn it on at 62, it's going to be significantly less than it's going to be at your full retirement age. And then that's going to be significantly less than it is at 70. Because between full retirement age and 70, you're getting a guaranteed 8% per year bump. Not quite that much between 62 and full retirement age, but it's still significant. So for this client that was in here earlier, I don't remember the exact numbers, but if she turned it on at 62, it was going to be about 18,000 she was going to get. If she waited till 70, it was up to 29,000. So pretty big difference. I mean, that's a major difference right there. But this is what I told her and what I tell every client. I have got sophisticated software. Man, I could sit here and run you scenario after scenario and show you mathematically what makes the most sense. And we can do that, and I'm fine doing that. But here's the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say. And that is, it all depends on your longevity. Whether you make the most out of Social Security or not is going to depend on your longevity. Now, just because, Kevin, your brother lived or your dad lived to 97 doesn't mean you're going to live to 97.
Right.
But what I tell people, and what I told this lady in my office earlier today, tell me about your mom and dad. Tell me about your aunts. Tell me about your uncles. Tell me about cousins. Are people dying from stuff at a younger age, or are they living, and she's like, oh no, my goodness, my dad was 92 and mom's still alive and she's 89 and my cousins and my uncles, everybody's 90. I'm like, okay. So there's a relatively good possibility that unless something happens, that you're probably going to do that same thing, because that's just kind of what happens. So in that case, it might make more sense to defer as long as we can. So that's the plan that we're starting to put in place for her, is how is she going to get the income that she needs in order to get her between where she's going to retire and where she would turn on Social Security. But we're talking about turning on Social Security. Longevity definitely changes the math. Men's life expectancy is 75 and women's is 80. Okay, now those are round numbers where I know that's not exactly it, but it's close enough for what I'm saying. So if a man lives to 83.6 and claims at 62, that gets him roughly $362,000 in benefits, okay? But if he waited until 70 and still lives to 83.6, instead of 362, he's going to get 404. It depends on when he would pass. If he passed earlier, then he may have been better off starting at 62. So again, we have to look at longevity of your family, what's your health like, and also look at the numbers and weigh all of that together. We're going to look at everything and try to make a wise decision for each person individually, because Social Security is an individual decision, but it can have family ramifications. So we want to make sure we do it wisely, and that's going to be based on, again, looking at the whole situation and figuring out what's best for you.
800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Or you can always get more info online anytime. The website is safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, this has zipped right on by like it tends to do every single week. And, sir, before we run out of time, I'd like to once again leave the floor all yours for the final word.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. I hope everyone enjoyed the show today. Hope everyone's staying warm out there. We had a really great show today. We discussed several things, kind of going in reverse order. We discussed Social Security, and it's a major discussion and decision. And you need to sit down with someone. If it's not me, you need to sit down with another certified financial fiduciary that understands all the ins and outs of Social Security, how the survivor's benefits work, how all of these things work, to make sure you're making a wise plan. You also need to speak with someone that can help you make that transition between accumulation and distribution. You need to talk with someone that can help you figure out, okay, I've saved this lump sum of money, or I've got this pension, or whatever it is. Now, what should I do with it? That's what we do every single day. But the big thing that I really want to focus on is the very first thing that we discussed today, and that is people think that they've got these retirement accounts and, oh, well, I've got $700,000 saved up. If it's in a retirement account, unless it's a Roth, no, you really don't. You've got $700,000 in the account. You do not have all of that, because based on your tax rate, the government's going to take, 12, 22, 24, 32, whatever your percentage is, they're going to get that. So let's sit down and let's make a plan. This is a big deal. And the more money you've got, the bigger deal it is. It's funny, when I do seminars and I do Social Security seminars, I see people the whole gamut. People that are just relying on Social Security and millionaires. But when I do a tax planning seminar, The people that come in are the people that have a lot of money because they're the ones that understand, man, this is a big deal. I mean, if you got 200,000 and the government owns 22%, yeah, that's not great. If you got 2 million and they own 22%, do that math real quick. That'll make you pucker. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that you're ready and make sure that you've got a plan for all of this stuff. For Social Security, what are you going to do for taxes? How are you going to get everything switched over to make sure you've got enough income? Because you want to have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.